to like read through things that you didn't read through yet. Like those 2 minutes gives you like so much time to do it. What book was that? First button.
All right, Bill, go ahead.
Welcome to the regular meeting of the Cicero Town Board, September 22nd, 2021. Please note the exits in the front and the rear of the building. For those who are not with us here this evening, in addition to myself, we had Councilors Boyke, White, Bacallo, and Jonathan Carp right here in front of me. In addition, other members who are here, other folks of the Cicero family, we have Steve Ruturno, Tracy Councilman, Robert Germain, Elka Johans, David Christian, Gretchen Walter there in the back, and Kate Fiorello, the engineer there in the back. So again, welcome. Clerk will please call the roll.
Counselor Boyke.
Here.
Counselor Carp.
Here.
Counselor White.
Here.
Counselor Bacallo.
Here.
And Supervisor Meyer.
Here. Before we get into the regular part of the agenda, for those of you who are members of a VFW post, would you please raise your hand? Got the folks there in front. Any other folks? The reason I'm bringing that up is the VFW, Veterans of Foreign Wars, was started in September 1899. It is September, so we're recognizing them. They are the nation's oldest major war organization. There are over 6,000 posts worldwide. So we're very fortunate to have a post right here in the town of Cicero, right down the road in North Syracuse. This past year, they processed over 100,000 new VA claims. That's to benefit the men and women who served in uniform and had injuries, and injuries were significant. So they're going to the Veterans Administration to get some redress for their injuries. So that being said, first item on the agenda, I'm going to ask Commander Cox to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Commander. To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Would you like to introduce the folks who are with you? The two in the front row, though, I think they haven't quite enlisted yet. But, you know, I saw some good Army colors on them. So would you like to introduce them?
These are my boys, Riker and Gus. This is our chaplain, Bill Fowler. This is one of our trustees, Rob Messick, and a past post commander, and my girlfriend Denise.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, please be seated. We'll move along on the agenda. Nancy?
Approval of abstracts. Resolved, the Cicero Town Board approves abstract number 36 dated 9/8/2021.
Second.
Discussion? Clerk will call the roll.
Counselor Boyke.
Yes.
Counselor Carp.
Yes.
Counselor White.
Yes.
Counselor Bacallo.
Aye.
Supervisor Meyer.
Yes, item is adopted. Thank you, Nancy.
Budget modifications. The budget modifications are approved as presented.
Second.
Discussion on the item? Clerk will call the roll.
Counselor Boyke.
Yes.
Counselor Carp.
Yes.
Counselor White.
Yes.
Counselor Bacallo.
Aye.
Supervisor Meyer.
Yes, item is adopted. Thank you. Because we have such a long agenda, and I know some of the folks are going to be leaving early, I'm going to do some of the announcements now so that we make sure everybody's notified. The first item for announcement is I'm calling a special town board meeting for September 29th, 2021, 6:30 p.m. here at 8236 Borton Road to start the budget process and other normal business. Second item of great interest, Judy, would you like to talk about the 31 project?
Thank you. Yes, just a reminder, it will go on our town website. The open house scheduled September 30th from 6 to 8 at the new highway garage. And this is an opportunity for folks to be able to view the projects that are proposed for Route 31 and the possible roundabout at Thompson Road and also the improvements at South Bay Road. Again, it's an open house. There will be folks from the DOT to ask, you'll be able to ask questions. And there will also be an opportunity if you have comments or want to write something to be passed along.
Okay, thank you. At the Safety Committee today, Dave gave an excellent presentation, and Lieutenant Myers also contributed on a major highway project on Lakeshore Road that is going to be a few challenges. So Dave, would you like to tell everybody a little bit of an update on that? You may have to kind of make some adjustments in your traveling in that area.
Starting Monday of this upcoming week, we will be closing down the section of Lakeshore Road between South Bay and Yacht Club Road. We'll be replacing 42-inch culvert pipe going across the road. So right now, the tentative date of completion we have as Thursday. Hopefully we can get it done in 3 days instead of 4 days if the weather cooperates. And the lieutenant offered some items. I don't know if the chief wanted add that as far as putting on notices on the electronic media. Media and so forth. We'll monitor the area. Okay. I know from some of the faces here, some of you live very close to that, so I'm sure you're appreciative of the advance notice. You may want to redo your trips in that area. Okay.
Supervisor, quick question on the special meeting. What time was that again?
6:30 p.m.
Since it was a night, we weren't really supposed to have a board meeting before it. Is there any way we could do that a little earlier? If anybody's not opposed.
I prefer that.
Any other comments?
Matter to me.
Okay, 6 o'clock. Is that good?
It helps. Is that the only, what's on the, I just asked what's on the agenda is to go over the budget and.
As you know, the budget process starts by giving the documents to the clerk, and then the documents then presented to the board. So that's what's going to happen.
So it's just a pro forma meeting to present and?
No.
No?
No, we'll start the budget process.
So is there going to be substantive?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so with that being said, if that's the judgment of the board, we'll have it at 6 o'clock, so 6:30. Clerk will please make the note of that. Okay, next item on the agenda is continuation of public hearing establishing a solar law that was originally scheduled for August 25th. We've had input on that. It was duly posted. Are there any folks here who would like to speak in favor of or opposed to the proposed solar law? Not seeing any hands. Any comments from the board? Okay, well, I'm going to close the public hearing. Ms. Boyke, number 5, please.
Seeker establishing a Cicero solar law. Resolved, the Cicero Town Board adopts a resolution declaring the town's action to approve establishing a Cicero solar law, proposed local law number 9 of 2021 as an unlisted action for the purpose of seeker compliance. The proposed action will not have any negative impact on the environment and involves no other permit manning authorities outside of the town. According to the proposed action, it does not require a preparation of a draft environment impact statement or any other statement as adopted.
I'll second it. Discussion on number 5. Clerk will call the roll.
Counselor Boyke,
Yes.
Counselor Carr.
Yes.
Counselor White,
Yes.
Counselor Bacallo.
Aye.
Supervisor Meyer.
Yes, item is adopted. Thank you. Nancy? I'm sorry, Judy.
Approve establishing a Cicero solar law. Whereas the town is in need to establish a solar law and establish a solar section in the town of Cicero's code book. Now, therefore, be it resolved, the town of Cicero Board establishes a solar law as local law number 9, effective upon filing with the New York State Secretary of State, and establishes a solar section in the town of Cicero's code book.
Second.
Second, Ms. White. Discussion? Clerk will call the roll.
Counselor Boyke,
Yes.
Counselor Carr.
Yes.
Counselor White,
Yes.
Counselor Bacallo,
Aye.
Supervisor Meyer.
Yes, item is adopted. Thank you, Jonathan.
For number 7, I don't know for any of you that might not be aware, September is National Suicide Prevention Month. And here tonight to give us an informational talk about suicide prevention is Stacy Green. She is the secretary of the CNY chapter of the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. And she is here to speak to us about this important topic.
Thank you. I appreciate the time this evening. As he mentioned, it is National Suicide Prevention Month. So we try to get out into the community as much as possible and also let people know what we do here in our community. A lot of people don't know we have an active board here in Central New York. So to introduce myself, my name is Stacy Green. This is my dad, Andrew Taddeo, who works with me on the board as well. And we got involved with the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention after we lost my brother almost 8 years ago. So as you could imagine, with most suicides, it was a shock to our family. It was very difficult and left us with a million questions. And so part of our grief process and part of our understanding how he could make that choice was to become involved and learn as much as we possibly could about mental health, about what leads people to suicide. And, we joined the board a couple years ago, and now we also run a local walk called the Out of the Darkness Walk. And that's coming up on October 9th. I did leave in the back, there's some postcards with a QR code to register and just information about it if anybody's interested. And so really the walk, we spend a lot of the year planning the walk. And what we want to let people know that we're there to support those who are struggling with mental health and also those who have had a loss to suicide. We offer a program in the area called the Healing Conversations Program. So my dad and I have been trained to go into homes or meet somebody out in public of people who have had a recent suicide loss. As I mentioned, it leaves people with a lot of feelings of guilt, with a lot of unanswered questions that most likely will never be answered, and that adds to the grief process. And so we recently met a family, an extended family, and sat with them for almost 2 hours. We listen, we tell them what we have done to still move on. And while our pain won't really, it doesn't really lessen, but we are still able to find joy in our life and how we are able to get up and do things for my brother now. And so we sit with families and help them through as much as we can. And that is, that's a huge part of what we're able to offer in the community free of charge because of the money we raise at our local Out of the Darkness Walk. So the walk itself has resources in the community, like where you can get help. So therapists, we have Liberty Resources coming, the Veterans Hospital, the VA is coming, just so that people can take with them resources. And our other goal of the walk is really to reduce the stigma attached to suicide and mental health in general. I have seen a very large shift in the 8 years since my brother died. However, I think we still have a long way to go. And most people won't speak up because of the stigma attached. So just a few statistics for you. In New York State, just over 47,000 people each year die by suicide. It's currently the 10th leading cause of death overall, and second leading cause of death for anyone between the ages of 10 and 34, which for me, I'm a school teacher in Cicero right here, and that's really alarming for me. In the past 2 years, our school district has lost 4 students to suicide. 1 is too many. 4 is ridiculous. I've pushed the school district a little bit to, just have a more open conversation. And I think they've done a lot. They've done a lot better with getting programs into the buildings. I've been able to present. We have a program for teens called More Than Sad that I did at the junior high and at the high school right before COVID shut down. And the AFSP is coming out with new programs every day. They have a new program for at-risk teens. They have a new program for caretakers of people who struggle with their mental health. And, all of these programs are offered free of charge because we raise so much money with our local walk. And so it's important, because it's such a high rate of suicide in young kids. It's really important to educate them so they know what to look for in friends. I always tell them when I start the program with them that we need their help because they're much more likely to tell a peer that they're struggling before they're going to tell a parent or an adult. So we need to get our peer, our young kids on board with that as well. And so, we know anytime we have programs for just the general public, we have a Talk Saves Lives program, just kind of an overview of suicide, warning signs, what to look for. And we've done that at different businesses, at different sponsors for our walk, so that, overall people feel like they can speak up, they know how to get help, and, they know how to ask others about suicide. And so, as I grew up, I knew that my brother, I had some concerns about him. And a few months before he died, a friend called and said, "Is your brother okay?" And I had concerns, but I never directly asked him about suicide. It wasn't in my skill set. I didn't know that was appropriate at the time. Instead, I asked my other brother, is he going to kill himself? And he was like, "Oh, gosh, no, you're crazy." And 3 months later, he died. So, I make it my goal to make sure that people know that it is appropriate to ask directly, do you have thoughts of suicide? Do you have thoughts of hurting yourself? Many years ago, it was thought that if you mention suicide, you're going to give people the idea, but it's a myth. Research has proven that, because if you have a healthy mind, it's not there. I talk about suicide, all the time. I present about it. I've sat in 4-day conferences learning about suicide. Yeah, I've never thought about it. So the healthy mind will not think about it. So, we always make sure that people take that message, and especially with my students, I will always, when I'm presenting, I always make them ask each other and just take a minute and, okay, how do you start a conversation about mental health? Talk to the person next to you. Start that, we call it the awkward conversation. Go ahead and take 2 minutes, and with the person next to you, start the conversation and ask if they have thoughts of suicide. It's certainly something that you need to be prepared for and need to stay calm. But in our programs, we teach about how to remain calm, how to have that conversation, when is the appropriate time to have that conversation. And so, all of this together, we're hoping to reduce the suicide rate in our local community, but also nationally. Reduce the stigma, and when there is a loss, let people know that we are here for them. So I have brought some items. I have some business cards and the walk postcards. I have a pamphlet about preventing suicide in military families. And then I just have some pins and pens that I'm going to leave on the back table if anybody can take them on their way out. So are there any questions or?
Stacy, have you given presentations at our canteen?
I have, yes. Yep.
Thank you.
I think I've been there 3 times, one more informal, but yeah,
Thank you.
you're welcome. And actually, the
Thank you very
canteen
much,
program was,
Jonathan.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, Jonathan, any closing comments? Or-
No, I'd just like to thank Stacy for her time. I know she's very busy and we
Thank you
appreciate it.
for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next item number 8, continuation of public hearing, consider zone change to general commercial plus on East Taft Road. Our council has advised that since this has still not been, had a referral or lack of communication with town of DeWitt because they're adjacent town with us, that it would be best to have a formal vote on setting a new public hearing date. So that being said, I'm going to move on to item number 9, continuation public hearing. consider a zone change to general commercial plus on East Taft Road, tax map 0570218.2. Whereas the applicant requests a zone change from general commercial GC to general commercial plus, CG plus for the property located on East Taft Road, tax map number 0570218.2. Now therefore be resolved, the public hearing to consider a zone change from general commercial CG to general commercial plus, GC plus for tax map 0570218.2 shall now continue on October 13th, 2021 at 6:30 PM at 8236 Georgian Road, Cicero, New York, 13039.
Second.
Discussion on number 9. Clerk will call the roll.
Counselor Boyke,
Yes.
Counselor Carr,
Yes.
Counselor White,
Yes.
Counselor Bacallo,
Aye.
Supervisor Meyer.
Yes, item is adopted. Thank you. Next item is a replacement number 10. Unfortunately, the item that was passed last time, we didn't get the proper posting. So Nancy, would you like to do the revised number 10, replacement number 10?
Calling for a public hearing concerning ad hoc members of the Cicero Planning Board. Whereas the Cicero Town Board wishes to consider having 2 ad hoc members of the Planning Board. Now therefore be it resolved, the Cicero Town Board of the Town of Cicero, County of Onondaga, and State of New York will address an application introduced before the Town Board to consider an amendment of the Town of Cicero Code, Chapter 50, Article 1, appointment of ad hoc member to add an additional ad hoc member to the Planning Board. The text of the proposed amendment language is posted on the town website, will be available in the town clerk's office.
Second.
Discussion on number 10, replacement number 10. Clerk will call the roll.
Counselor Boyke,
Yes.
Counselor Carr,
Yes.
Counselor White,
Yes.
Counselor Bacallo,
Aye.
Supervisor Meyer.
Yes, item is adopted. Thank you. So we'll be skipping number 11 and 12. Those items are pulled because they pertain to the original item that was replaced. Okay, next item is 13, approve the paving of aprons surrounding park pavilions and gazebos, whereas the Parks Department wishes to repair and enhance the aprons around various park pavilions and gazebos and has the funds budgeted. Now therefore be resolved, Cicero Town Board approves Salt Springs Paving Company to grade the existing stone base and install binder around designated pavilions and gazebos at a cost not to exceed $6,800, budget code A711045.
Second.
Ms. Boyke, discussion on number 13. Clerk will call the roll.
Counselor Boyke,
Yes.
Counselor Carr,
Yes.
Counselor White,
Yes.
Counselor Bacallo,
Aye.
Supervisor Meyer.
Yes, item is adopted. Thank you. Nancy?
Town Board approval for crack sealing town roads. Whereas the Highway Department needs to crack seal the driveways of the newly paved roads and crack seal some existing roads to maintain their condition. Now therefore be it resolved that the Town Board approves Suitco County Contract number 0010312 in the amount of $25,000 from account code DB 511255.
Second.
Second, Mr. Bacallo. Discussion? Clerk will call the roll.
Counselor Boyke,
Yes.
Counselor Carr,
Yes.
Counselor White,
Yes.
Counselor Bacallo,
Aye.
Supervisor Meyer.
Yes, item is adopted. Thank you, Jonathan.
Approve submission of JCAP grant application, whereas the court would like to apply for the 2021-2022 JCAP Justice Court Assistance Program grant for the following 2 items: 2 judicial robes, 2 handheld metal detector wands, and 3 secretariat chairs totaling $1,304.45, budget code A11104. Now therefore be it resolved, the Town Board approves the application for the JCAP grant. Now be it further resolved, the Town Board of the Town of Cicero authorizes the Cicero Town Court to apply for a JCAP grant in the 2021-2022 grant cycle for up to $30,000.
Second.
Discussion? Clerk will call the roll.
Counselor Boyke,
Yes.
Counselor Carr.
Yes.
Counselor White.
Yes.
Counselor Bacallo.
Aye.
Supervisor Meyer.
Yes, item is adopted. Judy?
Calling for a public hearing to approve extension of the solar moratorium. Whereas the town of Cicero on 11/4/20 duly enacted local law number 11/2020, providing for a temporary moratorium against the consideration of any and all applications for solar utility substations, building permits, and other development for as yet unpermitted commercial solar energy related requests to allow for the town board to further investigate and study issues related to the development of the town's commercial solar policy law, and for the receipt and implementation for formal recommendations for corresponding changes to the town code laws, rules, or policies. And whereas the moratorium is set to expire on or about 11/12/21, and whereas the town board is in the process of considering new code sections to add to the issues presented by the process and is not yet complete, and the board recognizes the need for additional time. Now, therefore, be it resolved, the town hereby adopts a resolution calling a public hearing on October 13th, 2021, commencing at 6:30 PM local time to consider a 6-month extension to local law number 11/2020. The purpose of the said the purpose of the said law is to provide an extension of the temporary moratorium against the consideration of any and all applications for solar utility substations, building permits, and other development for as yet unpermitted commercial solar energy related requests to allow for the town board to further investigate and study issues related to the development of the town's commercial solar policy.
Second.
Discussion on number 16. Clerk will call the roll.
Counselor Boyke.
Yes.
Counselor Carr.
Yes.
Counselor White.
Yes.
Counselor Bacallo.
Aye.
Supervisor Meyer.
Yes, item is adopted. Thank you. Judy?
Set a public hearing for Island Road Water District. Resolve the Town of Cicero Board sets a public hearing for Wednesday, October 13th at 6:30 at 8236 Burton Road to approve the formation of the Island Road Water District dated August 24th, 2021, as prepared by Inusi and Romans Land Surveying, PC.
Second. Discussion? Kate, would you like to add some detail to this?
Ed?
We're in the process of doing this because there's a resident on Island Road who doesn't have water. And Aqua now will no longer give someone water if they're not in a water district. So this gentleman is paying for the extension of the water, $70,000, and to form this district. We're wrapping in a few other neighboring properties at their request. Once we're through all of this, one process we'd like to do, once we get through this one, is put the entire town in one consolidated water district. So we don't have to go through this every time somebody else wants to get water that's not in a district. But first we have to tackle this step.
Kate, how far away is this from Island Road and Thompson Road intersection?
Oh, it's just, it was gonna hook on to, it's just a little east of there, past Joss Farm. It's actually Vector Construction are the people that requested it. So it's connecting it to Vector Construction and adding a few hydrants along the way.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, further discussion on 17? Clerk will call the roll.
Counselor Boyke.
Yes.
Counselor Carr.
Yes.
Counselor White.
Yes.
Counselor Bacallo.
Aye.
Supervisor Meyer.
Yes, item is adopted. Thank you. Judy?
At a public hearing for Northern Boulevard Sewer District Contract Number 4. Resolved, the Cicero Town Board sets a public hearing for Wednesday, October 13th at 6:30 at 8236 Burton Road to approve sewer petition plan and contract drawings titled Northern Boulevard Sewer District Contract Number 4 associated with Milton Cat dated September 3rd, 2021, as prepared by Colby Company Engineering LLC.
Second.
Discussion on the item? Kate, would you like to fill in some more on this one too, please?
As everybody knows, Milton Cat is getting built, and part of it, they needed sewer service. The route best for the town was to take it up Northern Boulevard, cut in between the two solar farms that you now see up there, and it will tie into Island Hollow. So Milton Cat is paying for the construction of this public sewer system as part of their project. So future developments will be able to connect in.
Kate, that pumping station is going to be able to supply to them and others possible hookups? Is it that
Yes,
big?
it was designed for it, and it can have an upgrade of pumps, but truthfully, it probably won't need it for a long time because two of those big lots are now solar farms. So they won't be needing sewer service. So it's really just the Rosselli property next to it. And then there's one other property next to that. So the pumping station will probably be fine as it is unless, you know, zone changes come and other stuff comes in.
Thank you.
So.
Thank you. Clerk will call the roll.
Counselor Blakey.
Yes.
Counselor Carr.
Yes.
Counselor White.
Yes.
Counselor Bacallo.
Aye.
Supervisor Meyer.
Yes, item is adopted. Thank you. Mike?
Approve the acceptance of contract drawings for the Route 11 pumping station upgrades associated with the CDS housing development. Whereas the town planning board approved the site plan on November 13th, 2020, and whereas OCDWEP has identified the Route 11 pumping station as having operational issues that may be exacerbated by the additional sanitary flow. And whereas the town requested the CDS housing upgrade, the pumping station to accommodate their development and future development, now therefore be it resolved, the town board accept the contract drawings titled Lakeshore Sewer District Contract Number 62C, Route 11 Pumping Station Upgrades dated September 13th, 2021, as approved by Hunt Engineering, subject to approval by the town engineer.
Second.
Second, Ms. Blakey, discussion? Clerk will call the roll.
Counselor Blakey.
Yes.
Counselor Carr.
Yes.
Counselor White.
Yes.
Counselor Bacallo.
Aye.
Supervisor Meyer.
Yes, item is adopted. Thank you. Number 20, board approves hiring a recreation attendant. Whereas the recreation department has a need for a seasonal recreation attendant for the volleyball leagues, and now therefore be resolved, the town board approves to hire Abigail Mangani as a recreation attendant at an hourly pay rate of $12.50 effective October 1st, 2021, budget code B702013, and be it further resolved, the hourly rate of $12.50 will be fully covered by program registration fees.
Second.
Second, Mr. Bacallo, discussion on number 20. Clerk will call the roll.
Counselor Blakey.
Yes.
Counselor Carr.
Yes.
Counselor White.
Yes.
Counselor Bacallo.
Aye.
Supervisor Meyer.
Item is adopted. Thank you. 21, the board declares the following, I'm sorry, Mike, you have 21.
Oh, you started reading, so.
Sure, I'm sorry.
The board declares the following items from the town hall surplus. Whereas the town hall has 3 old chairs that have been replaced, and whereas the town hall needs to send 3 old office chairs to Auctions International, now therefore be it resolved, the town board approves the chairs as surplus and authorizes the supervisor to send the chairs to Auctions International.
Second.
Second, Blakey, discussion on 21. Clerk will call the roll.
Counselor Blakey.
Yes.
Counselor Carr.
Yes.
Counselor White.
Yes.
Counselor Bacallo.
Aye.
Supervisor Meyer.
Yes, item is adopted. Thank you. Number 22, last meeting, we had some discussion on an idea for some development of Brewerton. It was discussed, but we didn't come to any resolution. And I think Nancy wants to talk about that again.
Yes, I want to just bring this back up. We had put it off from last meeting to this meeting. There were no responses or conversations about it, but I wanted to bring it up and see if there's any discussion and see if the board does want to go forward with it or doesn't want to go forward with it. That way we can either work to get the application in, or just let it go and wait for the next round of grants that come through? Would you like me to reread it?
Yeah, please.
Approve commitment to provide 20% match funding for Route 11 streetscape improvements from Brewerton Elementary School to Guy Young Road. Should the town's Transportation Alternatives Program, TAP, application for grant funding be approved. Whereas, as a continuation of the Brewerton Revitalization Program, the town is applying for TAP funding for Route 11 streetscape improvements from Brewerton Elementary School to Guy Young Road. And whereas, to be eligible for the grant, the town must commit to first instancing 100% of the project funds before requesting reimbursement of 80% of the eligible project costs, and that a 20% match is available to support the project. Now therefore be it resolved that the town board approve the commitment to instancing 100% of the project funds before requesting reimbursement of 80% of the eligible project costs, and that a 20% match is available to support the project.
I'll second that for the purposes of discussion.
I talked with Kate today. Kate, would you, I apologize for you to come back up again, but it's been an active and busy night. Yeah.
I know.
So the way it reads, like when you hear it, it's all of it, 100% before you can request. And we had that conversation today. I'll let you have the.
And I'll let Elka correct me on things that I'm wrong, because the financing of this project should be similar to the way Darlene's Brook worked. So this is just an application. This is just a grant is out there for municipalities to apply for from New York State DOT. So just wanting to take advantage of that and all this effort that's gone on in Brewerton. So I do encourage anyone who may not have read the Brewerton Strategic Revitalization Plan from 2008. And then there's another draft plan that's current that there'll be a public hearing on soon to adopt the local waterfront revitalization plan. There's been a lot of great ideas for Brewerton, but not much has actually happened. But anyway, so this just came up. We've got Riverfront Park is almost there, getting done. We were thinking we're going to get the funding to finish that this year. The first part of Route 11 streetscapes, which is Guy Young Road north to the bridge. We think we're going to get that funding. So this is just something more. It's Guy Young Road south to Brewerton Road Elementary estimate. And me doing the estimate with just looking up stuff saying roughly $5 million. And that's the cap of the grant is 5 million. So you really could spend like 6 million and 6.25 million with the 20% coming from the town. But it's about a $5 million project. So that would be 20% would be $1 million from the town. If let's say we do get selected for the grant, which would probably be about I'd say 50% either way, we might get it. Then the town would then have a consultant that would develop design plans and stuff, get it bid ready. That would probably take at least 2 years to get through the permitting process. And so we would know when it was ready to go to bid, and then the town would have to instance that money to pay for the construction. So Elka, you correct me if I'm wrong. I believe, we don't have to put $5 million up and then at the end of the project get it back. Every time invoices come in, Elka sends them in, they come back, the funding place then sends back 80% of that money. So you're always putting out kind of 20%, but you have to front the invoices as they come, and they get high during construction.
No, we just may have to, like with
Microphone.
I'm sorry. We may have to, as we did with Darlene's Brook, possibly borrow using a ban for cash flow purposes. If we're spending, $3 million and we don't have $3 million in the account, DOT is pretty prompt about receiving the money once we apply for reimbursement. But still, for cash flow wise, it may be we might have to add on to our existing bans. It wouldn't be its own borrowing. We could piggyback it on the bans that we have
What do you mean by pretty prompt?
within a couple months.
Okay, so the interest costs would be minimal then in that case.
Well, we would probably, the bans are usually for a year.
Okay,
The most recent ban, we paid $3,400 on borrowing $1 million. So the interest costs are really cheap right now. We still would have the costs of printing, but we also have other existing bans that are renewed each year. So it wouldn't be any more additional costs as far as the printing or the legal opinions.
Okay, thank you.
And I should probably just quickly describe the project, would be just, the streetscape would include, sidewalks on both sides, the lanes in the conceptual design that was developed before, but things could change, it's widened driving lanes for bike routes. Whether it probably wouldn't be brick pavers, but something similar in between, and there would have to be curved, so there'd have to be a closed drainage system installed. So it really just does it, it's safety and it looks nicer would be the purpose.
Another question. So if we get approved, are we committed or could we then decline the bond? Or not the bond, the grant?
I think you technically could decline, but it doesn't look well, then it could affect, those are questions. So if Cicero goes through an application and then we say no later and then we want to apply again, I think it could go against us.
I keep hearing that, but is that an official policy or is that just speculation?
That's just what they say.
Okay.
I don't really know.
Okay.
So
I hear that every time we talk about grants, but I don't know if that's official or it's just people speculate, we better take it because we might not get it again. I'm just wondering if there's anything definitive on that.
there's 2 questions in the application where I had to say what projects we have and
Okay.
that we're successful on it. So
With as many grants as we've gotten for Burton, how many of them are still open?
we have several still open, but they're earmarked for, some is to finish the local waterfront revitalization plan draft, then the local waterfront revitalization plan final. And those are just reports, and those reports can help you get more grant funding. We have we've got a couple $100,000 of the Schumer grant and a couple $100,000 left from a different LWRP grant. And that's for the part of Route 11 from Guy Young North. We applied for a CATCO grant. We don't know if we got it. If we get that, we think we'll have enough to do that north part, that small part that's right in the village. Things could always come out short and we'll be asking for a little money, but we're close. So we do still have funding out there, but none of it is for this portion. This grant just became available and I talked to DOT. I said, does this fit? And they said, yes. So.
But what about the other grants that what we just put in for those businesses that fall in this?
Right, that's the Main Street Beautification Grant. So that's all through Onondaga County. And that is no dime of Cicero's is going into that. So that's all county money. We're just facilitating it. So hopefully we do get that grant and that will help those businesses, but it doesn't cost the town anything.
But part of that, where they're located, they have sidewalks already proposed in their
They won't be
applications?
allowed to do any sidewalks in the DOT right away without, everything has to be approved by DOT. And in that particular block, that stretch, the right of way is very narrow.
I know.
So there's takings that have to be done. So that's kind of what has kept a couple of the businesses from making improvements.
But isn't that still a part of this grant that you're talking about as well?
It covers kind of the same area, but different things. Like if they both came together, Brewerton would look, I think those 2 things happening together, the business facades and then the streetscape, and that part of Brewerton would really, kick in.
$5 million is a lot of money.
It is. And so it's just an opportunity. So
I
that's all.
understand.
So.
When you talk about upfront, as far as engineering and all of that we would have to be paying, obviously, before we even get into the crux of this whole thing?
Well, the engineering fees are included in the grant. So it would just be, let's say a first year, there was $100,000 fees in engineering. Elko would pay that, we'd get $80,000 back. So year 1, then year 2, kind of getting through the permitting, and then we can get more specific into the construction schedule.
Well, it's just kind of boggles my mind because we need a new town hall desperately. And I know all this money comes up for beautification all the time, but nothing is a capital improvement for the town.
Yeah,
I understand.
I know.
I
We
know.
need a lot of money for a lot of different.
I know, I know.
One of the challenges on this is that there's a lot of money out there in the CARES funding, but unfortunately, the guidance from Washington has been very murky at best. It applies best to cities and counties that have big health departments where they can get the reimbursement. It doesn't fit too well for towns and villages. And so every town in the state is dealing with this, okay, this big check comes in, Elko, gets in and we're gonna get another 1.5 million, but it's not clear what we can use the money for. The next part that's coming down is the new infrastructure bill. And obviously we hope infrastructure includes roads and bridges and things like that, but that's still very murky at best. So most of the municipalities in New York State are literally sitting on the money. The towns and villages are literally sitting on the money from the CARES funds that have come in because we don't have the guidance yet from Washington. So the hope is that they realize that and start defining the rules better. They are pretty clear for counties in the state, but they haven't got down to our level yet to really define what we can use it for. So if they do get those rules out, hopefully we'll be able to use it for projects like this. And that's why I guess we're kind of apprehensive because realistically, we're looking at $1 million project, our share of 20%.
Kate, how many years do we have to finish the project if we were to get the grant?
I believe once it gets, the bid documents are approved, from the date the agreement is signed. So let's say we find out in January and then there's all this stuff. Let's say so February, then you have 2 years to get the drawings to bid ready, to be approved for bid. And then it goes to bid and construction. So
Right, but how long would we have to complete the construction?
I think, it should only be one season. I think you would have the time that whatever the project would require from that time, there's a set time, but I believe this, it's actually, it's not that long of a stretch and it should be a summer season, I think,
Well, I
if
think
it goes to bid.
I don't know if I want to speak from his wife, but my concern is over how many years are we spreading this cost? Because there's budgeting concerns, planning concerns. If it's spread out over a number of years, we can plan for it. But if we're coming up with a good chunk of that $1 million in 1 year, they're coming up with $1 million in 1 year or 2 years, that's a different matter. It makes it much more difficult to budget and plan. So that's my concern.
I think the bulk will be during construction, but I do,
So the
I
bulk
would say
would be,
75% of it would be during construction.
which would be in 1 year, you think?
Yeah.
So about $750,000 in 1 year. All right, that to me changes the calculus. If we were
Mhm.
talking about over 4 or 5 years, I think that's something we could budget and plan for. But if you're talking $750,000 in 1 year, that's a big ask, I think.
Okay.
Thank you, Kate. I just wanted to bring it up and we can give the discussion and see what's going on.
And I
We've done
appreciate-
great stuff
I
up in
appreciate that.
Brewerton. So I hate to let it go by, but budget wise, we have to think of that also.
So are we,
Further discussion on this item? I'm going to ask for concurrence of the board to put this on the agenda. This was not originally on, so do you wish to consider this further tonight or?
no, so
Okay, so are you gonna pull it then, Nancy, or?
Yes, I can pull it.
Okay, so the item is off the agenda. Okay, item number 22, discussion. Any other members have items to bring up this evening? Hearing none, public input. Please raise your hand if you're like to come up. Mr. Snyder?
Because you're Don Snyder, I now have to say Legionnaire Drive, no longer Bun Mill, still in the town. you guys are getting ready to go in the budget process. I think that's great. I think the discussion on the project that Kate just talked about, obviously you need more information. So when you get in your budget process, you can figure that out. But I'll tell you right now, I think as Jonathan Carp just said, if we got to come up with near $1 million in one budget year, we're in trouble because we have some major problems. I'm not sure I'd agree with Judy on a new town hall, but I'll tell you the one thing I would agree on, we need a new courtroom. This place sucks as a courtroom. I have sat in the court for both judges. It's atrocious. We don't have a good place for our lawyers to meet their clients. We don't have a good place for the DA to meet the clients to negotiate situations. It really is bad. So if a new town hall also got us a courthouse, I wouldn't care. But we have had some studies done on a courtroom. We have some drawings that could get manufactured and put out on the street probably within a year. But we're talking about a couple of $1 million, you know, 1.4 to $2 million to build a courthouse. And that was whether we attach it to this building or whether we do it as a separate one. But we need to, when you're doing your budget process, you need to think about the courtroom. We've been out of compliance for more years than I've been involved in this board. So we need to do that. Also had a couple of conversations with some people that love the Zoom meeting, but they have a problem. The problem is they can barely see what's on that screen. They can never see the person that's talking. I had some discussions with our techno nut here, Wayne, before the meeting. We need to decide as a board what we really want to avail the public to. One, I think they ought to have total access to our meetings. They ought to be able to see who's speaking. They ought to really be able to read what's on the thing. I do not agree that they ought to be able to chime in and add to the meeting. I'm sorry, but if you want to come in and say something to the board, I think it should be in person. But I would give every other opportunity for them to, send in emails or whatever to talk about something in the future. So if the board will please look at that as something that we need to look at. As Wayne was saying, when you go out and buy a $83 camera, you get what an $83 camera will give you. If you give him the go ahead to do something more, he's definitely smart enough to do that. And that will also show our lack of, that we do not have a lack of transparency. We're trying to get as much as we can out to the public. I know, Mike, that you've made some comments before that we really need to make sure that all the information that town citizens would need would be able to be there. So if we please look at that as an item. If we're going to put an $800,000 item in the budget, I'd add it to the paving budget. I wouldn't add it anywhere else right now. The team probably couldn't do double the paving they do now, but with contractors, we could in fact get more done. And it's already a known fact that we will never get caught up with the current roads if we only give them about 800 grand or $1 million a year. We know we need probably 10 or 12 million dollars to do that. As John said, that's a budget issue, and we don't have that kind of money right now. Thank you.
Mr. Baloo?
Tom Baloo, 6121 Palm Summit Circle. We had an opportunity, you were talking about how this money would be dispersed for the towns in the county. Sat down with Dave Knapp last night and he said, we're going to be able to spend that money on just about anything. He says, unfortunately, your towns are going to be extremely limited, so you won't be paving roads with that money. I think I spoke with Councilor Carp. There's going to be a small window that you can use to use that money. But moving forward to infrastructure improvements, Mr. Meyer. 2 weeks ago, I submitted a petition from the residents in Hill Park. And to date, I haven't heard anything back from the town board or the highway superintendent's office. I have a letter based on a discussion with one of the neighbors recently. She took the time to put a letter together. You may have gotten a copy of it, but I'll read it to the board. Dear Bill, we're writing in connection with the condition of the roads on Rose Court, Palm Summit Circle. 3 years ago, we met with the highway superintendent. We were assured the roads would be done within 3 years. It's been past that time, nothing but patchwork has been done. These roads have been completely completed, finished. Excuse me, I'm having trouble reading her words here. In 1997. It's about time the town addressed the hazardous conditions of these roads. Patchwork repairs, cracks in the road, potholes, and poor water drainage are apparent. A petition was signed by many of the residents on this street, and a copy was forwarded to your office. In front of our home at 6114 Palm Summit Circle, the road has settled so much that the water sits there for several days and then gathers at the side of the road, causing the curbs and driveways to crack and deteriorate. To shorten this, we are asking the town to take immediate steps to rehabilitate these roads. We ask for your assistance and the other board members to expedite this work and have it as a priority in caring for our roads. We look forward to a discussion with the board in the future. So I guess my question would be, what can we expect from the board? We would like to have a meeting with potentially the liaison to the highway department and perhaps the highway superintendent or someone who he would like to send to represent him.
The petition was forwarded to the highway superintendent. The paving, as I understand it, is done for the year. And as you know, the highway superintendent comes generally in early spring and comes to the board with a plan. And then the board endorses that plan or modifies that plan.
Part of the problem with that is if it's being brought in at this point in time to be able to see where we're going to project this in the future and not having a meeting and not have the opportunity to talk about scheduling, then we'll come in here in the spring and it still won't be part of the road process. That's why we're asking for a meeting.
The foreman is right there next to you. I'm sure he'll relay the message and so that Chris can give you a call.
We would also like the opportunity to have one of the board members available to review this, to see what condition this road is in.
I'm sure Nancy would be available, and if she's not available, I'm sure one of the other board members would be available.
All right, very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm John McAuliffe, 8844 Lombardi Drive here in Cicero. I've been a Cicero resident for 40 years, and I appreciate the opportunity to address the board. And I wouldn't have done this except for the discussion about the potential DOT grant for Brewerton and the Brewerton waterfront and Route 11 in Brewerton. So over the course of the summer, I've traveled for 30 days or more along the Erie Canal. And here in Brewerton, we are at the heart of the Erie Canal, a waterway funded by the state from Buffalo to Albany to New York, up to Plattsburgh, right? We're at the heart here in central New York. We have dozens of boats daily going through Brewerton from the Erie Canal to Oneida Lake. I have experienced some wonderful, wonderful places this summer, right? Watkins Glen, Geneva, Ithaca, Seneca Falls, Spencerport, Fairport, Clyde. These places have done a wonderful job with their Erie Canal waterfronts, and it's bringing economic development into their community, not just from the boaters that are eating breakfast, lunch, and dinner at these waterfront establishments, but it's attracting a lot of customers to the local restaurants along the Erie Canal. So you can even look a little bit closer and look at what Baldwinsville has done with their waterfront, or even you can go up to Phoenix and see what Phoenix has done with their waterfront up there. So I request that you consider taking some of this DOT funding and looking at how we can use it here in Cicero and in Brewerton to help our economics opportunity here. So thank you for the time.
Thank you, Dan. Any further hands? Seeing none, I'll move to adjourn. Need a second?
Second.
All in favor, voice vote.
Aye.
Unanimous. See you at the next meeting coming up.